What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball Podcast. I am your host, Tro Bro Dude. And if I sound weird and my surroundings look weird, it's because I am out of town right now. But the grind never stops over here at YKB. We are still recording. And before we get into anything, I want to talk about our sponsors from Underdog Fantasy. The NFL starts this weekend with the playoffs. You could do fantasy drafts on there. You could do their pick'em. NFL as well as the NBA will go throughout the whole season. And for the next few weeks, you can go on there and do our slop season content. The link is in the description for the slop season contest. Basically, you have to guess where players will be traded before this trade deadline. And if you guess enough correct, more than anyone else, you can win up to $500 in Underdog Fantasy bonus cash. So, link in the description, $100 deposit match with our promo code SLOP. That's SLOP. And you can do NFL, NBA, all that fun stuff. And definitely check out Underdog if you have not already. But Sam, we got to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Our boy.
Yeah. How are you doing? How are you doing at the CIA Black site first? I'm surprised they took you away so quickly after the startling revelation that you don't believe in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I know.
As the Eagles fan on this podcast, I'm happy to say, folks, we got him.
Yep.
I reported him to the CIA. They came and picked him up. Trill is coming off of 9 hours of waterboarding, and as a result of that, he has told me he wants to talk about the Lakers in the podcast today.
Yeah, no.
That should just tell you how down bad he is. His mind has been broken.
They got me Arby's after the waterboarding, so it's all good. We're even. You know, they went out, they grabbed me some Arby's. I got a regular number one meal, and we're totally even right now. Now, if you don't get that joke, Sam is referencing my tweet from draft night of 2020, where I did the incredibly normal thing where I was already pissed about the Jalen Reagor pick, and then the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. And I said that it was the worst pick since Tim Tebow in the first round. Now, keep in mind, the Eagles were coming off of a bad season, a down season for the Eagles, I should say. I had thought at the time that Carson Wentz was the quarterback of the team. And like any normal fan, I freaked out. And then within 3 days, I was posting YouTube highlights of Jalen Hurts saying that he was the future king. So I'm innocent. I had an overreaction in the moment, and I will
interrogator. We're not going to hear it. You're getting what you deserve.
That's going to age really well if the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about having embarrassing draft night takes about future franchise MVP candidates on your team. It's never happened to me.
Never once.
God.
Yeah.
Anyway. Don't look up Sam Packard's video of me draft night 2017 where I am dejected with the Jason Tatum pick, just devastated.
I'm gonna have to dig that up.
I'll send it to you if you want to retweet it. Yeah,
definitely send that because we'll be even after that. After you called me out for my Jalen Hurts. Okay, so let's get into. It's slop season, but everyone's kind of being stingy with the slop right now. Like no one's really, there are no big reports. There's no real trade rumors out there from actual people that we trust. You know, of course you're going to get the same rumor mongers that you always get when it comes to slop season. But the big names like Shams and Woj have been kind of quiet. Like, you know, I think the biggest thing so far that was been released this week from one of the legit reporters is Sham said that the Suns are interested in Jalen McDaniels, which at first I was like, so funny. I was like, yeah, of course they'd be interested in Jaden McDaniels. Like like a big wing defender who can, and then I remembered that he has a brother who has like the same exact name. And he plays for the Hornets. He's not nearly as good.
This is like the Brooks trade for back in the day. Yes. When it's like, we'll throw in Brooks. Yeah. We'll get Brooks. Okay, yeah, Brooks. That's a good one.
Marshawn Brooks, right?
Talking about Marshawn and Dylan Brooks. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah, the Suns are interested in, and I was just like, I don't know what to take from this. I don't really know all that much about Jalen McDaniels. And I'm sure the Suns are trying to trade Jay Crowder still and would be interested in getting a young wing like KJ Martin or Jalen McDaniels or someone like that. But I just don't, until we get closer to the deadline, I don't really care about these reports until we start to get like real names, trade framework. And there's one that we'll talk about later that came from Mark Stein, who has an iffy track record, but he is pretty plugged into the Mavericks and it has to deal with the Mavericks. But let's talk about LeBron up top, LeBron and the Lakers. So we've talked ad nauseum about the Lakers potentially trading the 2 picks like every other fucking NBA podcast has. Yeah, I was so glad to see that Zach Lowe was talking about it again today.
I can't believe. Would you believe that he thinks Anthony Davis plays best at center? I've never heard that. I've never heard. This is just, it's so brutal. I mean, this happens all the time, but it's just so brutal that LeBron is on the Lakers and they're a bad team because they just can't be ignored like they should be. Like, I know. And it sucks. It really fucking sucks. Like,
yeah. I mean, Harrison was giving me shit for, because I always make fun of the media for talking about the Lakers too much. And he's like, haven't you done like 3 episodes? And I'm like, look, I go where the slop leads me. The Lakers are the only team that have been front and center in the slop talks so far this year because they're one of the teams that needs to make a move. And this leads up to this interview that Sam Amick from The Athletic has with LeBron. And the whole thing is LeBron basically saying, look, I'm focused on winning. I'm focusing on winning another title. It's not my job to do the front office stuff. And then at the end of it, he walks away and says, you all know what the fuck needs to happen, which is essentially insinuating they need to trade the 2 picks.
Didn't he try to walk that back and call Sam a liar, basically? Yeah, too. That's so LeBron. That's God. He is one of our cattiest. That's how I know he's one of the richest NBA players ever because of how catty he is.
100%.
Just weird media snipes and digs. Sam Amick treated me very unfairly. Sam D'Amico, sir. That's the one you're thinking. Oh, okay. Sorry. I couldn't get away.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the Homer Simpson meme I've made. Amick equal good, Amico equal bad.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So LeBron was confused. He thought it was Sam Amico.
Yeah. Right.
But he basically, in LeBron's defense, I listened to this podcast that Sam Amick talked about. He talked about the whole thing on the tampering podcast on The Athletic today, and he basically said what LeBron had beef with was the part where Sam said that LeBron's patience is waning. Because he says, you make it sound like I'm frustrated when I'm really not. I told you over and over and over. My job is focused on the guys in the locker room. My job is not the roster. By the way, I do think it's kind of funny ever since the Russ thing, LeBron has been publicly by the way.
I didn't do that. I didn't do this shit. I mean,
I'm innocent.
Yeah.
Rob Pelinka's a criminal.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I just showed up. I'm the good parts of the Lakers. Oh, you like Anthony Davis? That was me. But I stopped doing moves after that.
That was my last move. Every move since that has increasingly gotten worse.
No,
not me. That's the other guy. Other guys. But so yeah, he basically said it isn't the reality of the conversation. I say this with the utmost respect and calmness because that's the mood I'm in. You're welcome. 5-game winning streak was LeBron's response. But what Sam basically said was, and Sam's right, in that when he was responding, he said, look, this was my take on it. I never said that LeBron straight up said my patience is waning. I said, it seems like his patience is waning. Yeah. And maybe that read wasn't correct. But he basically said, it's obvious that LeBron had to come out and say this, because this could hurt them in trade talks. Because if another team's like, oh, you're really going to draw the line right here? Okay, well then explain to LeBron that you didn't want to give us that second unprotected pick for X player, and maybe this offseason he'll force a trade.
Yeah. I mean, there's 6 things going on here. One is that every team is trying to buy. There's no sellers. Who are the good players on really bad teams? Houston has nobody.
I think
Eric Gordon.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly don't even think Eric. Honestly, veteran players, Houston has no one. The Magic,
Pirtle, and maybe Josh Richardson if you really
Doug McDermott, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Doug McDermott, I guess. Yeah, he's more.
But like, they're not needle moving players is the point of this. It's like the best players, and we've talked about this over and over, the best players who are going to get traded at this deadline are like Bojan Bogdanovic, Kyle Kuzma, and maybe Miles Turner will finally get traded because it seems like they can't really come to an agreement on a contract extension right now.
Yeah. And depending on what like shakes loose, like what happens with that Raptors, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen with that.
I'm just so over the Raptors, man.
It doesn't seem like anything. I don't think they're going to do anything. I mean, we can talk about that later. But anyway, the point here is that the Lakers have that working against them. The other thing is, I think this is kind of a staring contest between LeBron, because I don't think LeBron wants to fucking live anywhere else. Like, he fucking set up his life, and he's not going anywhere. I don't think LeBron is going.
And they're not going to trade him to the Clippers.
Right. So, like, he's not going anywhere. They don't want to trade him. I think LeBron is just trying to exert pressure and, you know, make them do this. And I think they're kind of correctly calling his bluff, like, we're not going to do that, you know, like, especially
probably if you wanted to have some influence, why'd you sign the extension?
That's another great point. Like, you imagine how bad Lakers fans would be freaking out right now if, I don't know, all their shit is just whack. And I mean, Zach has made this point on his podcast a couple of times, and I think it's correct that, you know, you can say that, like, oh, the Lakers could beat anyone in the West, which is probably true in like one single series and like a 10th percentile outcome or something like that. But it's not, they're not going to win 3 in a row. There's never this roster. There's no trade, no anything that will ever make this a championship team, you know? So
could it make it a finals team if AD is, but even then, like AD being healthy for a month, LeBron being healthy for a month straight, like
you got to win 3 series. Like,
yeah.
Even if you
got to be matchups, you got to have different guys for different matchups. And like, this team is not deep. This team is not, honestly, it's extremely top heavy. And even the top heavy guys, you can't rely on those two due to the injury and age concern. So the only thing I will say, and from this LeBron doesn't want to get traded thing, I do agree. I don't think LeBron wants to leave LA. I don't think he wants to live anywhere else.
Yeah.
I think there might be one exception that LeBron would say, so they're never going to trade him to the Clippers. The optics of that would look too bad. They also don't have nearly enough to get back anything. Like they're not going to trade Paul George for LeBron. Like, let's be honest. So the one exception I think that he might make, and I think you think I'm going to say Golden State, but it's not Golden State.
No, that's not what I was thinking.
It's Phoenix.
Oh, okay. That was not what I was thinking. I thought you were going to do Cleveland Part 3.
No.
I was going to be
no. I don't think he wants. I don't think he wants Cleveland, and I don't think Cleveland. I think once they made the Donovan Mitchell trade, they were like, we kind of made our bed. Like we have our stars. We have our
comfy
young
bed.
Guys. Yeah,
really comfy bed.
Yeah.
Good job taking that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You know, this is what we're comfortable with. We're not going to focus on LeBron Part 3. We're going to go with younger guys that are in their prime that are all going to play together and potentially contend for championships for a few years here. So the reason why I say Phoenix is because the thing with Phoenix to me is that a lot of players have historically wanted to go there in either trades or free agency because it's the closest place to LA without being in LA. It's only like 3 or 4 hours away from LA. It's incredibly close in terms of like, if you want to take a quick flight, it's probably like an hour and a half. And in addition to that, you know, Chris Paul's at a different stage of his career. I don't even know if Chris Paul's contract's going to be guaranteed next year because of how poorly he's played this year, but he still is good friends with Chris Paul. It's a one last thing there. And you have Chris Paul, you know, obviously not looking nearly as good as he is, but I know that he definitely respects Booker and likes Booker. And now that Durant's balling out in Brooklyn, and we'll talk about his injury in a little bit, but like now that he's balling out in Brooklyn, like it's possible Durant stays through the tenure of that contract. And Phoenix all of a sudden has all these picks, all of the DeAndre Ayton upset, potentially the chance to trade a Cam Johnson or a Mikal Bridges, and they really have no one to trade for. So that really feels like a move that could potentially happen to me because the fact that it's proximity to LA, it's about as close as you can get, and LeBron could basically still go back to LA anytime he wants, which is why Chris Paul wanted to be there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the fact that Booker's in his prime. I think Booker and LeBron gives you a shot to win the title, regardless if Chris Paul's washed or not. And then you have Ayton and Bridges and a few picks, and maybe the Lakers are interested in that type of package. Like maybe they're looking more at picks and young players as opposed to, trying to get a superstar, because as we've talked about forever, they're one of the places that might be able to just get guys in free agency, and they might be able to just sign a superstar or sign a star in a way that most markets can't. And I think that could be like a decent fit for both LeBron, the Suns, and then the Lakers too.
So if I were the Suns, the thing about the Suns is they're kind of the opposite Lakers, where they're kind of, the thing is the sale makes things weird.
Sure.
Robert Sarver still having control
for the rest of this season, but he might not next season in the offseason.
So that's the thing, is like the Suns are the clearest buy, because they're one of the only good teams that has their picks. And they've got a lot of stuff that's like useful, like they have Ayton, who's like not happy there, but would be a pretty compelling trade piece. I think they would probably want to hang on to like Mikal Bridges, but like,
if it's LeBron,
you need to put more in there. Like you put Cam Johnson in there. You could there's other stuff you could do, with the picks. So would you, I know we're the podcast that did the KD, like it's KD, you have to do it. Are you sure you want to triple down, take this shot on LeBron James at age 38.
Yeah, he'll be 38 going on 39 next year.
I know he's a machine. I know he's a machine. I know he's good, but I just, Devin Booker is like literally in his prime. Like I would rather call about Pascal Siakam, to be honest.
Sure. That's who we talked about. And also, by the way, someone commented they cannot trade LeBron before this deadline.
Right.
So that's out of the second he signed the extension, he's stuck there for the year. So the fact that it will have to come this upcoming offseason does present some complications, because they didn't extend Cam Johnson like idiots.
Yeah.
And because of that, it makes it harder to include him in a sign-and trade, since he's a restricted free agent, which they learned with Ayton last offseason.
Yeah.
And really their trade pieces are Ayton, Bridges for this upcoming offseason, or Ayton, Bridges, and the picks.
Yeah.
And I personally agree with you. Maybe they learned their lesson from the Chris Paul thing. Like, as great as Chris Paul was, it got them to the finals. That window's already closed. Like, unless you scale down Chris Paul's responsibilities and bring in another star, they're not getting to win. They're not going to win a title with Booker. So maybe going after the next star that comes available, whether it's Pascal Siakam, maybe, he's older, but like if Paul George became available this offseason, like there are other guys that like could potentially become available. I don't want this to happen, but like James Harden could become available. Like there are plenty of guys that are not 38 years old that you could kind of bank on. But I also say, like, if LeBron James wants to come play for your team, I would do it. Like, I'm not giving up everything. I'd probably give up Ayton and Bridges, because I just think that to get your name in the conversation, you have to give. Maybe Ayton goes to another team and they send stuff to the Lakers. But like Ayton and Bridges gets you in the conversation, I think, in the same way it did for KD. And then it comes down to the picks. Like, I'm probably not sending all the picks possible, but this is LeBron James and this is Booker heading into whatever. Like, if it came down to it and I had the option between going a little bit younger, maybe a player who's not quite as good as LeBron, I'd probably go that route. But also, if LeBron wanted to go there and you feel like you can win the title next year without entirely gutting your team, which honestly is kind of hard when we're talking about like losing two of their most important players here. Yeah. Who knows what happens with the Jay Crowder situation? It sounds like they are trying to get younger with the KJ Martin and the Jaden McDaniels type stuff, but like, it really depends on who becomes available. Like, is Jimmy Butler available this offseason?
Yeah, exactly.
Is like there are plenty of guys that like
who, by the way, is
younger.
Also, by the way, Jimmy Butler is also old and like quietly like
33.
Like and is also just injured a lot. Like he's always ready for the playoffs, so like maybe that doesn't matter. But like, are you all right with like Jimmy Butler playing like 40 games for you and then just playing in the playoffs? Like stuff to consider like that.
I might go DeMar DeRozan over Jimmy Butler just because of the injury and stuff. I mean, Jimmy's very obviously the better player. Like they're very similar offensive players, and Jimmy's a much better defender. Yeah. But it's not even a question that Jimmy's better. But DeMar is. They're the same age, and DeMar, you're not going to give up everything to get DeMar. Like you could probably get, if the Bulls flame out after this season and then they go into next season and they want to do like a mini reset or rebuild, like you could probably get DeMar for 2 first-round picks and salary, or like a young player in a first-round pick.
God, it's going to be so interesting to see what happens when everybody like when the chips fall, you know what I'm saying? Because this is the season really is kind of split up into quarters. You've got like the start, and then you've got kind of this. We're just coming to the end of like the first half of the season, and like the second fourth when we learn a lot more. Like the Celtics came back down to earth, the Nets surged. Everybody's kind of finding their water level a little bit. I think the standings right now are probably way closer to what they're going to be at the end of the season than what the first quarter of the season was. And then you have slop season, which is what we're entering right now, is the slop season, and like when teams get shaken up. And that's when it's like still exciting because you get to see all these new teams. Oh, what's the configuration? How's this going to work? And that's why the slop is essential. This is the number one. This is the YKB thing. You need the slop. Otherwise the season's too long. And then you have the doldrums, like the last quarter of the year where the basketball sucks and everybody's just ready.
And we just talk about awards and who's going to win the finals, basically.
So, but I think I'm starting to feel like you said this last time we podcast, and I think you're right. I'm starting to feel like this might be a dry slop season, and I don't think that much is going to happen here because I look around at the sellers. I don't think anyone's going to pull the trigger really. Like,
I think it's the worst teams possible to be the sellers because the Raptors never trade their guys. The Bulls have no reason to blow it up because I think there's going to be pressure on that front office if they try to do a reset or a reconfiguration. And also they've been playing better recently. So like, who knows, maybe they turn their season around. And then the other team that's selling is who's going to be the team that makes the bold move is the question. Who's the team that realizes there's an opportunity to get a lot of shit?
So that's the thing is like, the other thing is that they were talking about on Low Post that I agree with, and that I've been saying about like the Bulls in particular, is there's not really any incentive to get like to trade your guys because you're not getting worse. You're already bad. You know what I'm saying? Like the Raptors, but it's not middling. Like the Raptors are like 6th. From the
I was talking about the Bulls. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but like even the Bulls, like they're, you're at all times a 2-game slide from the bottom. Like there's not really a incentive to like trade these guys. It's not like in the past when these teams would be like 7th or 8th. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, do we really want to get wiped out in the first round? No, you're already in the dog shit things of the lottery.
Exactly.
The Bulls less so, but like especially in the case of the Raptors, where it's like you can kind of talk yourself into like, all right, we made a bad bet with Otto Porter, but like if we bring all these guys back, like we can make some signings, fix some. Not all these guys, Fred probably walks, but like we can tweak with.
Now, I think that's the thing is that Fred, all he ever talks about is how he's loyal and how he wants to stay in Toronto and help them compete. The only thing he would walk for is if he really feels like they're like trying to lowball him. And maybe they do.
I think that's going to happen.
They already did. Like, honestly, you know what? I heard the report that came out that he turned down. They didn't say how many years, but it was like $118 million extension. I don't think that's a low ball for what Fred VanVleet provides for a team. Like, I did a calculation. I think it was like $28.5 million a year.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. Like, could he get $30 million from a team in free agency? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Just because there's never good free agents anymore. And like guys will just naturally get overpaid due to that. But like, I don't know, like with the way Fred VanVleet's played this year, honestly, with the way Fred VanVleet's played every season of his career, except for last year, like I think there's an argument that you might not even pay him that much.
Yeah. He had his good season at the wrong time. I think he's a little I think the Raptors probably have some leverage to squeeze him with, because I don't know if nobody's really going to have cap space in anybody like I don't know anyone going to do that. I mean, if he could get a max extension, anything. My point here being that the Raptors, they have enough talent, you know what I'm saying, and that there are guys. It's just that they have 3 guys who literally fucking play the same position, so they've got to like figure that out, and they have no shooting. So, like, they can talk themselves into it. But it's like if the only teams that are selling are them, like, are the Pacers going to sell? They're 6th.
Except for they might sell in like we're trading Miles Turner because we can't come to a contract extension. Maybe Buddy Hield, maybe just because they're so deep at the 2. Like now they have 3 young guys who can all play the 2. Like they have Halliburton, Nembhard, and I know they're playing him at the 3, but he's not a 3 on a winning team, like a legit playoff team. Like he's a 2. Then they have Nembhard who can play the 2. They have Halliburton who can play the 2. They have Mathurin who can play the 2. So like I wouldn't be shocked, but like those are the kind of selling type moves. Like as Will points out in the comments, this is something we've been saying. For one team, if there's one team, like you could make the argument to be the Raptors shouldn't sell. You could make the argument to be the Bulls shouldn't sell. There's no way in the fucking world that you can make the argument to be the Wizards shouldn't be selling right now, because the Wizards are currently worse than these teams. Kristaps Porzingis is playing at a level that he will never play at consistently due to health reasons.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, we already know that situation. Kuzma's expiring and could walk for nothing. And that brings me to the idea that Kevin O'Connor had on the mismatch, which was, first off, it is a little bit more complicated. He kind of pitched a trade that doesn't really work in terms of salary match. Like he kind of just threw it out there. Like he basically said on this episode of the mismatch, what if the Lakers approached it like this? And they said, we're going to use Patrick Beverley and Nunn's expiring contracts with one of the first round picks to get one player to get, let's say, Kyle Kuzma, right? And then we'll use the other pick to get someone like Bojan Bogdanovic with Russ's salary. The problem is Russ makes way more money than Bojan Bogdanovic. You would the Pistons would have to also include Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel, who I actually think should have some value at this deadline. Like Burks definitely should have value. He's good. And with the so few guys that are actually available at this deadline, he should be one of the better names that gets moved and is like a very valuable 6-man bench guard on a good team. So like that's where it gets complicated, because the Pistons are giving up all this shit. And apparently the report that came out today was that the Lakers don't view Bojan Bogdanovic as worth an unprotected first. So that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I think unless you're getting Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, which was the trade all along, or like someone better, like you had mentioned pre-podcast, it doesn't really make any sense to me. Like who is worth a protected pick if Bojan Bogdanovic in the middle of a career season? I know he's old, but this is your window with LeBron. Like the 2 years is your window. And if you're trading for Bojan and Kuzma, then you could talk me into that if you could somehow figure out a way to make this work. But otherwise, like I'm just like I like that idea, like trying to get 2 separate players with the picks and some salary better than just trading one of the picks, doing like a half measure, or trading both of the picks for someone who's not worth it.
Well, and the thing here is because the big problem was the reason that everyone was saying they should make this move last offseason was like, you don't want to waste a year of LeBron James's career. Okay, too late. It happened. Sorry, bye-bye. It's gone. Sucks. He's bye-bye. Not coming back.
They're really only, 3 games below 500? Like, they're not that far back. Now, okay, so if you look at it, like...
They are...
the 12th seed.
4th from the bottom.
Okay, yes, they are, but look at it like this. They're 3 games below 500. The Jazz are falling. The Jazz are going to move some guys in some capacity, whether it's like Zach brought up on the low post, Malik Beasley or whoever it is. Like, they're going to move guys to get a little bit worse. And that basically comes down to, do you think the Lakers can, if they make a trade, can be better than the Trailblazers, Timberwolves, and Suns for a stretch? And the Suns without Booker for the next few weeks, too. And by the way, they're 2-10 without Booker this season.
The thing is, this just doesn't make sense. It's going to be more expensive this trade deadline. The point I was trying to wind up for is like you're doing sunk cost again if you're trying to trade in season. Like at this point, just wait till the offseason. Like, look, Russell Westbrook comes off the books. You make your run at Kyrie Irving. see what the fuck happens there.
Or James Harden.
Or James Harden. You get one of those guys, all of a sudden, math fucking changes. You're going to want those 2 picks to make the other guys around that fit better. And that's a way easier trade to make if you end up like making one of those. It just, I mean, I guess that's part of the reason all the Lakers talk frustrates me is because just from an objective, like, I don't know, game theory, fucking what everybody wants thing. It's just no scenario. Once the season started and they were bad for a while, everything went out the window that made sense for this team. Like, especially after AD got hurt. It doesn't matter. The season is fucking ruined. Even if you manage to get ahead of Portland or fucking the Timberwolves or something,
you still got to win 2 play-in games.
On the road. And even then, okay, now you got to you got to beat Jokic.
Yeah.
Like in Denver, like as a 38-year-old, like at altitude, like,
yeah.
I just wait. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll have more information next offseason. I mean, maybe you're still fucked, but like that just, it makes more sense because you'll know if you got Kyrie Irving, all of these variables will have come together, and the playoffs change a lot of stuff. And you're going to want those picks for building your team. Then you could make an actual team. I still don't think a championship contender, but if AD is healthy and LeBron is healthy, the Lakers could put together a top 4 team once Russ is off the team and they use their cap space appropriately and just get actual good players.
Well, they could just sign Kuzma this offseason too, and I think he would go back. Like, he loves Rob Pelinka. He loves the Lakers. He wants to be in LA, I'm sure. Like, they could easily just do that. That's the funniest scenario. I actually am rooting for the Wizards. Although it would provide us with a lot of great slop, I'm rooting for them to not trade Kuzma and then just having him walk for nothing. And then they're even more fucked than they were. And they get absolutely nothing from the Rush trade. That the original Rush trade that they were praised for, that would be incredible to me. I would love to see that. My prediction still, though, is, and I know some people, there was a report that came out today, once again, you don't know what you can really believe around this time of the year, but like, it did sound like the Nets, who we're going to talk about right now, were looking for front court help, and specifically at the power forward position. And I'm like, that sounds like Kyle Kuzma to me. Like that's the team. And he has been tweeting about the Nets recently and how great KD's been. He wants to be in a big market. He's going to be a free agent. Like, I don't know if it's the best fit, but like, Kuzma's good, and like, I think they're one rotational wing when healthy away from being like a scary team in the East. Like, I still don't trust TJ Warren's health. I still don't trust Ben Simmons and Claxton's free throw shooting, especially Ben Simmons in a playoff series. But like, you get me one more guy who like, oh shit, we can't play Ben, let's throw Kuzma out there. That would change the like calculus of what I think about the Nets. And I'm honestly, it's really a bummer that the Durant injury happened when it did, because I had to take, I honestly think when healthy, and maybe this doesn't matter now, because if Durant is hurt again and he misses all these games and they fall, Will's on suicide watch right now.
Yes, I will. Will declared it. Yeah, he's on a live watch.
Yes,
part of the episode. Yep.
So I honestly think that the Nets, if healthy, are a better team than the Milwaukee Bucks. I just think they're better. Like, I think that everything we've seen. Yes, I think that they're like, there's something wrong with the Bucks, and I don't exactly know what to put my finger on. Maybe the fact that they have the 24th offense in the NBA and one of the worst half-court offenses is a big part of it. There's something weird going on there where, like, they almost lost again last night to the Knicks. They got destroyed by the Hornets last week. Like, I know Giannis has been putting up these numbers, but like I think KD's had a better season than Giannis.
Yeah, and I don't think that's arguable, to be honest. Yeah.
And I don't think that Middleton's health, like the Middleton health stuff, is real.
That's like what I was gonna say. Yeah. Is that, like, until I see Middleton proof of life, I definitely agree with you. Like, because that's the thing hanging over all of this, is if they don't have Middleton.
But the Durant injury throws a wrench in everything, because it's not to say that he's gonna be out the whole season and they're fucked, but he's, with his recent injury history, with his age, he's going to be out probably 13 to 15 games in the next month. If they're conservative, like Bontemp said he wanted to do, and just hold him out until the All-Star break, it's even more games. But he's probably going to miss like 13 games. And in those games, maybe they can go 500. They've got some cupcake, easy games in there. They've also got some tough ones as well. Yeah. But I look at the Nets in this stretch as like, obviously it's never good when your best player gets hurt, but now you can really see what you have with this team because like, Durant can play big minutes in the playoffs, but you could figure out some configurations. I actually am like, I think Kevin Durant needed a break anyway. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like he's been a workhorse for them for like 3 straight years now. And even with the injuries on top of all this shit, like, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that he's missing all this time, but the tough thing is going to be the fact that they're probably going to slide down in the standings, and they're probably going to be in that 4-5 matchup, which everyone wants to avoid. And if Milwaukee avoids that 4-5 matchup, then all my takes go out the window, because whoever gets in that 4-5 matchup, whether it's the Sixers, Cavs, Bucks, Nets, or Celtics, has a chance to lose in the first round. And that's the only thing that scares me from the Nets perspective, is that they've been on this roll recently, and everyone's been so hesitant to say that they're the second best team or they're the best team in the East. But I feel confident in saying, when healthy, they're just better than most teams in the East. I think it's them and the Celtics.
Yeah, no, the Nets have like definitely shown something that is very interesting, I think. Wait, let me throw this at you. Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, and the Sixers pick for Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma.
I don't think the Wizards would do it.
You get a young star. You're resetting around Ben Simmons, your young star.
Yeah,
honestly, asset.
If his value wasn't lit as low as it could possibly be, even though I know everyone keeps saying, "Oh, he's figuring it out," it doesn't matter as much on the Nets. Yes, that is true. But also, now that Kevin Durant's out, we're going to see how much that really does matter, because he still has shooters around him. He still has Seth Curry, who's finally starting to get better. Joe Harris has struggled from deep this season, but he's still a very good spacing threat. Kyrie is going to be the one that's running the offense. I'd imagine they lean more into the ball movement team game thing, but I still think that they'll be decent during this stretch. I don't think the bottom is gonna fall out.
I think,
but they need Ben to be better than he has been.
And the defensive player of the year is gonna step up.
Nick Claxton. He's been really, really good.
He's been really good. He's what everyone thinks Jaren Jackson Jr. is, but
no, I'm not allowing that.
Because Jaren Jackson Jr. like dribbles and turns the ball over and fouls, and then shoots 28% from 3 or whatever the fuck.
I'm going to defend Jaren Jackson Jr., who currently has an 11% block rate. Like,
great in like 7 minutes a game.
I mean, he's got to get better with the fouls. I've never argued against that, but they have by far the number 1 defense in the NBA when he is on the court for 26 minutes a game. So I have a tough time. I have a tough time when it comes to end of the year awards, giving it to guys who can't play 30 minutes a game. But his impact is really insane.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to dig at Jared to like get serious. I think the Nets. The problem is he has no trade value. They just kind of got to get rid of Ben. Like everyone else is like, I think pretty good and kind of fits with what they do. That's the clear spot they need to upgrade. There's so much movable salary there. I'm trying to think of like who they could trade Ben for that could like provide like a relatively like stable upgrade there. I mean, if they could trade Ben for Kuzma, that would be like perfect, but there's like no way to like do that.
Ben for Kuzma and Barton.
I still don't think the salary, but I think you need more money from.
No, I've done it in the trade machine before. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Ben makes like 33. Kuzma 35. Makes 35. Ugh. Yeah. God, his salary went up. I forgot.
Yeah.
So it would have to be like Kuzma, Barton, and Wright.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's 13 and 9. That gets you to 22.
It's basically exactly 17, it's exactly what the Wizards did last year with Dinwiddie and Bertans to get Porzingis.
Yeah. Right. Something like that. Like
The Wizards would be the one team. I mean, the Wizards would be the one team that I've joked like would do that kind of deal because
I think Porzingis fits great on the Nets. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but like think about the rim protection and the spacing. Like he's a front court partner. They'd be huge in the front.
I think I'd still rather have Claxton for that team.
I would start both of them.
Do you start him at the 4 and KD at the 3?
Yeah. Like because Porzingis can space the floor. Like Claxton, I don't know. I
have 3 very good rim protectors.
That's what I'm saying. You're long, you're sweet. I don't want that shit, but I'm just saying, like, I think that, but the other thing is now you're like injury. Now you're like
in hell
creating an injury variability, which would buy. But again, a point, the Wizards won't, the Wizards won't do that. So the point is moot. But point being, I've been really, really impressed with Nick Claxton. Like
he's been awesome
over this stretch.
He's been everything they needed him to be with, especially with Ben's offensive regression. Like he's been great.
Our pal Matt was saying it in the chat, and I think I agree with him. He might be this Nets' second best player, KD.
Yeah, I'd still probably take Kyrie just because I think that Kyrie's shot creation, especially during the stretch without KD, is going to be incredibly important for them.
Yeah.
And Kyrie's had a little bit of a bounce back season after his slow start. But it's certainly a conversation just because Claxton is a really useful two-way player in a way that was, I made fun of Will before the season for praising Claxton on a stream, but to be fair, he's been way better this year, and he's always been really good on defense. The offense has really come around in a way that I did not anticipate, and he's been awesome. But I have a question for you. Okay, so right now Brooklyn, when KD plays, obviously, has a 4.6 net rating. Who are the 3 teams that have a better net rating than the Nets? And that's with the bad start, by the way. That's with before they got rid of
Celtics for sure.
Celtics have a better net rating, correct?
Probably the Grizzlies probably have a fraudulent good record because they played in the West. I would guess Nuggets, maybe. No. Theirs is like shitty. Hold on, no, I'm taking that back.
It's not good yet.
Yeah. Fuck. Who else? I guess Cavs. Maybe I would guess. Yep.
It's the New Orleans Pelicans still.
Wow.
Barely ahead of them. They just lost Zion and they don't have Ingram still, but they have a plus 4.7 net rating right now. The amazing thing to me is Cleveland and Brooklyn are basically tied in the 4-5. Denver and Philly are the teams that have leaped up recently in net rating with 3.9 and 3.4. Do we want to guess? Okay, so which team has a plus 2.3 net rating and is currently 2 spots ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks? It's an Eastern rating? Conference team. Yes.
2 points ahead of 2.3 net rating. I feel like the Knicks have a really good net rating.
Yeah.
It's
the Knicks and the Mavs both have a better net rating than the Bucks, and the Bucks basically have the same net rating as the Sacramento Kings right now. Barely better than the Utah Jazz. This is what I've been saying about Milwaukee is like, look, they have the best player, or at least arguably the best player. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt that you don't want to play them in a playoff series. But for everything I've seen, I know Nihilus Bucks is going to get mad at me, but like, this is not a contender as it's currently constructed unless we get a full Middleton healthy and they make maybe a move at the deadline. So like, I know that Brooklyn is going to struggle over the next few weeks. Maybe the doomsday scenario for them is Durant's out for longer than a month. They really skid and they get locked into the 4-5 matchup and they have to play Cleveland. Or honestly, I still think if Durant's healthy, they match up pretty well with the Sixers, sadly.
The wing thing is always like the Nets and the Celtics are the two you guys probably don't want to see in the
exactly
early on.
But like if they match up with Cleveland or Milwaukee in the first round, then that's where I would start to get concerned for the Nets. But otherwise, they're still 27-13, which is crazy considering they started what did they start the season like 1-5? Like
really
they have been incredible since the horrible start, and they got a real NBA coach in there. So like, I don't know. I'm still like pretty high on the Nets as a whole, but it is worthy to question whether like this might not take Durant out of the MVP conversation because he can still play 65, 70 games, but certainly hurts his case when he's going up against in such a tight contested year. The one thing it does make easy is the All-Star game is going to be the front court conversation's pretty much gone now if Durant isn't playing. So then you have Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum, and we don't have to worry about that anymore. But from Brooklyn's perspective, I don't know. I think they're going to be fine. I'd still make one more move if I'm Brooklyn. Just to, once again, I think this is the year you have to go all in with Durant playing the way he is. As long as this injury isn't more serious, and it sounds like it's really not, they're being precautious with it, and they'll be out a month.
Yeah. Check this out.
Holy shit. Since their 9-0 start, the Bucks have a worse net rating than the Thunder, 28th in offense over the last 2 months. That's so bad.
I think that's good, actually. It's fine. Nothing to see here.
I mean, if we're worried about the Nuggets defense, which by the way has been better recently, we should be worried about the Bucks offense.
No, Nuggets are kind of stabilizing. I feel like the Nuggets are going to end up the 1 seed in the West when it's all said and done. They look pretty solid.
They have the best regular season player in the NBA.
Yeah.
So. And we'll see for the playoffs, but I'm still kind of high on them as a playoff team.
What about Kelly Olynyk and Malik Beasley for Ben Simmons in the Sixers pick?
I don't think the Nets would do it, which sounds insane. But I don't think the Nets would do it because I think that they're going to see that, once again, Ben's overpaid. Ben could be a problem in the playoffs, especially with the Claxton fit, especially the end of some
what
games.
I'm thinking. Like, especially with the Claxton. You can't have 2 guys in your rotation who can't shoot free throws in the playoffs.
Sure. But also, you can't have Malik Beasley, another shooter who can't defend. Like, then you're like, you have to score 135 points a game if you're going to beat anyone in the playoffs. If you're playing Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving, Malik Beasley, who once again is a 2 as well. I think I'd just try to keep Ben at that point, even though I do like Malik Beasley, and I think that
I just movement shooting, man. I don't know. Like
we talk
about movement shooting a lot. Like, I mean, maybe you swap out Kelly Olynyk for like Jared Vanderbilt or something, like try and get Jared.
That
Vanderbilt
might work a little bit more just as the defensive specialist thing. Like, he would. Vanderbilt is someone they should be trying to acquire regardless of this conversation. Like, I think that maybe he's too defensively focused and he can't play with Claxton.
Yeah,
that might be, or Ben, maybe the non-shooting factor of it is an issue, but that's the kind of guy that I think that they should like. Kuzma, Vanderbilt, someone who can help because the defense and the rebounding is still going to be a problem deep into the playoffs. But So Will wants to move Seth Curry for Alec Burks.
He loves Alec Burks.
Honestly, Alec Burks has been he's the guy that you always talk yourself into at the deadline, and then you get him and you're like, he's okay. But like he did it on the Sixers, but to be fair, he's having a really good year. He's a good shooter.
Yeah.
He can defend capably. He's pretty big. He's like 6'5". He can play the 2 or the 3. Good, solid passer, not a good passer, solid passer. He is a little bit of a black hole on offense, but I don't know. Like he's one of those guys, and Marty Teller, whenever he would come on the podcast, we were talking about this, is like, he's one of those guys that like, you're like Alec Burks, unbelievable 35-point playoff game in game 6, like just absolutely comes in off the bench and goes off. He had one for the Knicks a few years ago. Like, I will say it is nice to have the Shake Milton, Alec Burks types who can swing a game when your offense is just incredibly cold off the bench.
Yeah. No, the Dennis Schroeder, so to speak.
Not Dennis Schroeder.
he had 38 points the other night. He's cooking. I just think, I don't know. I if I were the Nets, I would be trying to trade Ben because I just don't see that fit. I would be trying to offload him to a team that because trying to talk themselves into a young star, and is saying, "Oh, we're only we're trading 2 quarters for $1," or like
sure,
that's and just because that's the way you're going to make your team better. I'm really
the grossest idea I've ever had.
What's that?
You might throw up when I say this.
John Collins for Ben Simmons. Is that what you're thinking?
No, that one. Well, I know the Hawks were interested in him, but then they got DeJounte. It's just too redundant.
Yeah, they need less shooting on the Hawks.
This is one that we've thrown. Yeah, exactly. This is one that we've thrown up at the concept of before. But Fred VanVleet and Thad Young, or whoever makes the salary, Chris Boucher, Sixers killer for Ben Simmons. I don't think that's realistic, but it would be. I mean, Masai would certainly get his way, as we've discussed before. His sick dream that's clearly working right now.
Ben Simmons on the Raptors. Oh,
it's just
that should be illegal. Like they shouldn't air the games. I'd be found, like in the ring when they like find the bodies the next day and they're like desiccated and stuff like that. That's me like accidentally turning on TSN. Like to catch a Raptors fucking Pistons game that ends like 63-78. Like
your starting lineup, we have Ben Simmons at point guard, Scotty Barnes at shooting guard, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Precious Achiuwa, starting five.
I hate that.
The best creator in the starting lineup is Pascal Siakam, who
has no bag. Everyone has joked about him. I mean, he has gotten better, but like,
yeah, he has
the joke about the joke about the Siakam spin move though is still valid. So, oh god, gross. Yeah, anyway, look, we created slop out of nothing. That's
I respect Canadian Julius Randle.
I also, if I were the Knicks, I would be selling too. By the way. I know they won't, but
the Knicks will never sell. Let's be this front office is just not their MO. Oh, by the way, okay, so there were two. A tweet I saw earlier from a Knicks fan was really funny. It was like, so you remember how they made Emmanuel Quickly available for trade like a month ago, or like a little over a month ago, and then he played really well, and they were like, maybe we don't want to trade him. No. There was a report that was like the Mavericks, the Bucks, and the Wizards have been interested in Emmanuel Quickly.
Oh, I saw this tweet. You're talking about the reply to that, right?
Yeah, and the reply to it was, yeah, and I'm interested in Giannis.
That rocks, man.
Emmanuel Quickly.
I know as a Celtics fan, I'm not supposed to like throw stones about that because of how protective we are about Marcus Smart, who's like, okay, but like, probably not the best player in the world. But it is so funny how like fucking crazy you get about you.
A guy who was on the trade block a month ago.
They wanted him dead 2 months ago. They were like, we didn't trade this bum for Donovan Mitchell. This sucks. Where's Quentin Grimes? Emmanuel Quickly, he's basically Giannis, if you think about it.
I mean, as untouchable as Giannis, I would say, who was available for a first-round pick like 35 days ago. And I said at the time on the podcast, I was like, I would not trade Emmanuel Quickly. He's good, and the Knicks need to have good players. Like, I would just not trade a good young player. Like, that's just not my MO unless it's like you're getting a star, which by the way, they could have, and they should have. When I heard about the Carrera news today about him not going to the Mets, I was like, man, it's just unheard of that we all thought that a star was going to go to New York. And for months, we were told he was going to end up in New York, and then he just went to another team. When does that ever happen?
Well, that's never happened. No,
certainly not in the last calendar year.
Oh, who would have thought? No way.
Draw the line at a nice fourth or fifth option. KCP 2.0.
Oh my god. Oh,
such is the life of a Knicks fan.
Well, and a Mets. I'm kind of technically a Mets fan because I've seen more Mets games than Red Sox games in my life. So, I'm a Mets fan in that I root for them to lose so that tickets were cheaper. Does that make you a fan? I don't know.
Economical.
Yeah.
Very smart. Yeah.
I hated it.
You're rooting for the downfall of capitalism.
Yeah. Well, the $8 they had a Dunkin' Donut buy one get one free sale that's always on. It switched to McDonald's later on, but
nice.
You could catch a game on the first floor level for $17 for 2 tickets. Let's go!
Wow, what a
steal! It was really great. Yeah, when they were bad, and then they had to get Zach Wheeler and everything else. Yeah.
Sorry, there was a huge update in the comments.
I saw
Jaden Springer getting minutes with 8 minutes left in the fourth. This, by the way, this is the first Sixers real blowout the entire season. They have not blown out a team this entire season.
They had 100 points. It was like the Celtics Thunder game, like where they had 100 points at the third quarter.
They destroyed the Pistons. The Pistons without 3 starters, not very good team. Not a good team even with their 3 starters. Yeah,
it's crazy how that works.
It's weird, but
I can't believe Kevin Knox Jr. starting didn't work out for them. The second. I'm sorry. Kevin Knox the second. Come on.
Yeah. Let's go. Kentucky legend.
Yeah.
So, Fortnite legend. So,
he's hitting the gritty in this blowout as we speak. As Thanos.
So we're going to talk about the minor piece of slop that dropped that I actually trust. But before we do get into that, I just want to give an update to all of the people who said I was a Cam Reddish hater, who said that the Sixers need to trade for him, and that obviously I've never been a big Matisse Thybulle fan, but he's played much better this season. Not really. He's played kind of the same. He's just a solid regular season player, I should say. But I just want to give you a little update. If you're still interested in trading for Cam Reddish, you can get him for 2 second-round picks. Which, honestly, if I'm a team, why not? Who gives a shit? Maybe he can play. Maybe he can't. I don't care. It's 2 second-round picks. They're not real. But for all the people that yelled at me, Matisse Thybulle now has a higher three-point percentage for his career than Cam Reddish. So take that for what you will.
I didn't realize we had 4 o'clock semi-slop. I missed this. Otto Porter Jr. has got season-ending foot surgery today?
He's done. Yeah. His career might be over, dude.
That kind of changes things, too. I mean, I know it probably shouldn't, but, like, they were kind of counting on him to come back to, like, stabilize the ship. Now what do? You're counting on Precious Achiuwa to, like, be good? Like,
yeah, that's kind of the hope, I guess.
Yeah, fuck. I wonder what they're going to, I don't know. It's annoying because I don't think they're going to trade. I don't think they're going to trade him.
I'm not even going to waste any more time on the Raptors until we hear a real report. Like, I'm done with them. Like, if you want to keep your team, just leave me be.
Yeah.
So right now the real piece of slop that came out today that I believe to have somewhat of truth, because it came from Mark Stein and it's around the Mavericks. He usually gets everything on the Mavericks right because he's clearly boys with Cuban or someone in the front office there. He always breaks Mavericks news. And the report today was that, so there was a report from Chris Fedor of the Cleveland.com, who is plugged into the Cavs front office. And he basically said the Cavs are interested in Tim Hardaway Jr. And maybe I have my wires crossed here, but I'm pretty sure that Mark Stein had also said that the Cavs were interested in Tim Hardaway Jr. And that would take Karis LeVert being sent back in a swap to make the salaries match in that kind of trade. Unless they traded Kevin Love, but I don't think they're going to trade Kevin Love. But Tim Hardaway Jr. for Karis LeVert. What do you think of that slop? What do you think of that swap for the Cavs and the Mavericks?
So you told me about this. This is a little behind the music for the YKB diehards. You told me about this, and I hadn't heard this yet, and I'm baffled by this. Because, like, Karis LeVert is expiring, and I think we actually said at the beginning of the year he's like the clear piece they would trade to, like, get an upgrade and get, like, a real shooting, a real small forward, like a real wing. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is, like, hypothetically that, but he's also one of the worst contracts in the league.
Yeah.
So his contract decreases every year. 17.8 next year, 16.1 the year after. So there's that. Like, it is kind of the thing where you would probably have Tim Hardaway on Jr. on your team for, like, 1 to 2 years. So by the time you're ready to move on from him, he would be an expiring, that could kind of roll things over. It's hard for me to really get there. I mean, I know that, like, Karis LeVert isn't really good, but just, like, it's not really an upgrade. Like, I wonder who's giving up assets in this, I guess would be kind of my take.
My question, my thing is, I think that the Mavs would probably have to include something. They might bluff it and be like, "Oh no, we like Tim Hardaway. He's shooting well now, and like after his bad shooting start, like he's turned things around and he's important for us." But like, I know they're dying to get off that contract. Like, it's kind of an open secret in the NBA that they immediately regretted signing that deal, that 4-year deal for Tim Hardaway Jr. And you're getting back, like, look, I know we're not big Karis LeVert guys, but like, you're getting back like at least a rotation player that's on an expiring contract that you could either theoretically do a sign and trade with this offseason or let him walk and maybe have some road to cap space in some capacity if you make some other moves. And that's a pretty big win from the Mavs if you can do that. Like, they're not going to trade a first round pick to get off of it.
Yes, yeah, that'd be too much. I wonder, like,
Could they give up some seconds?
That's exactly what I was just like Googling, like, was like what kind of like seconds they have.
Sure.
Because if that could kind of make sense for Cleveland if you are getting a small asset back. I just don't.
But also, really, like, if that's your win now move, like, do you trust Hardaway Jr. playing the 3? Because he'd have to play the 3. The thought behind it is basically, okay, can we just get some more shooting is my guess. Yeah. Because the really only reliable shooters are, like, other than Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, obviously, are Shetty Osman and Kevin Love. So, like, I guess if you're hoping to get Tim Hardaway Jr., you're just like, we just need another guy who can hopefully survive defensively and make his threes. Like, that's the thought behind it, and like do a little bit. I don't know. I don't love it for the Cavs, but I also don't hate it. Like, I just think Karis LeVert might be a better player at this point in his career than Tim Hardaway Jr., especially if Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't making his shots. They're definitely similar level players.
Yeah.
But like, I guess LeVert does have injury concerns as well, but like, I think he's a little bit younger. He's like 3 years younger. Maybe do you want to extend him? I never liked the LeVert trade for them in the first place. I didn't get it. Like, if you go back and listen, I was just like, I don't really understand why they traded for him. But if you could maybe turn him into one rotation player, LeVert for that certainly wouldn't be my first choice. Tim Hardaway Jr. would not be my first choice. Mm-hmm. But like, unless you can get like a Jay Crowder for LeVert or you're not going to get Kyle Kuzma. Like, who are you really going to get? Like, I guess I could live with Tim Hardaway Jr. if I'm the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, Karis LeVert's actually shooting better from 3 this year, which is very funny.
Than Tim Hardaway?
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't even do it.
Yeah,
I know Tim Hardaway Jr. is historically a much better shooter. Like,
it barely. He's 35 and Karis LeVert's like 33. So it's like,
but volume wise, I wonder what because like, I know that
4 versus like 6. Yeah. So career. Yeah. And he's been 7 a game pretty much consistently since he was in Dallas. Yeah. And his first 2 years in Dallas too are his first 2 complete years in Dallas, he was 39 he was almost 40 and then 39.1, and it's just the last.
He's a much better shooter than LeVert historically.
Yeah. But like over the last 4 years, he's probably been a lot better shooter. I don't know. I would need to get something back as Cleveland. I would probably look for a better deal at some point. Yeah. That said, if your options are staying pat, like if you're not going to make another move this season and you're getting something for taking on Tim Hardaway Jr., I guess it's fine, Yeah. Because you're probably going to have him on the roster for a year or 2, and then, he's expiring, and then you kind of recoup the value of that a little bit, and you kind of create a stopgap because you don't want to be paying Karis LeVert, because who would? Yeah. So he's also healthier than Karis LeVert is the other important thing.
Yeah, I mean, LeVert is just the shoe's always about to drop. The other shoe's about to drop with LeVert at all times. It feels like, with the injury stuff. Yeah. And also the thing it did include is that most people think that LeVert is a better player league wide. The league perception on Karis LeVert is kind of similar to the league. Karis LeVert's way better than Cam Reddish, but it's kind of similar in terms of like perception. Like, I think that people think that he's better than he actually is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I might just keep Karis LeVert unless you can get something back, unless you can get like a prospect or like 2 good seconds or whatever it is. Like I'm probably good keeping that, which is kind of crazy because I've never been a Karis LeVert guy. Yeah. But yeah, I just don't really think that move kind of really moves the needle. By the way, I'm getting blown up on Twitter right now about Jaden Springer had 6 points in 45 seconds, and people are blowing up. Yeah, that's right. I always believed it. I've never wavered. I definitely didn't call him like the worst basketball player I've ever seen, and I made a huge mistake saying that the Sixers should draft him. That never happened. Delete those podcasts, please.
Sending those away.
Yes. And as Jonathan says in the comments, we're going to trade Jaden Springer while his stock's high. He's still only 20, folks. 20. You could have a 20-year-old potential defensive stalwart. Can't shoot for shit, but he's good at a lot of other things, like I don't know, being strong, having muscle, being fast, but also not really knowing how to use his speed. It's a tough fit. His rebounding's kind of insane. He's super athletic. He's got crazy vertical pop, but Sixers will never be able to develop players. Who gives a shit? Trade all the young players so that we don't have to suffer through this anymore. All right. Just Doc playing the corpse of fucking some. He's gonna get Gortat out of retirement so that we can roll him out there in the playoffs.
Oh,
just disgusting. God. All right. Before we get out of here, let's riff. He's Jaden Springer, not famous Talen Horton-Tucker. That's a good way to put it, really. Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. That's a good way. Okay, so do you want to talk about this midseason media report that the NBA came out with? Because
a delightful treat for each and every one of us. We had all our favorites. Gary Washburn, who was the Boston representative, which is very funny for Celtics fans, and the Sixers fans will be delighted to know Keith Pompey.
Yeah,
the Sixers representative. So
won an award today too. Go Keith. Deserves Keith it, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I kind of flipped through this, kind of keeping an eye out for interesting things. I thought for the most part, this was pretty interesting. It was very funny that they had a scrappiest player in the league thing. And I thought the wording of scrappiest was like very funny because like.
Did Jose Alvarado win?
Jose Alvarado did win, beating out Marcus Smart by 7 points.
Let's go.
But it's like
who's got the dog in him award?
Well, it's just so funny because it's like, yeah, it's scrappiest, but then you could change the wording, the results would totally flip. Like sure. You could say like who's the best gamer in the league, and then like
DeAndre
Kyle Lowry, like all of a sudden shows up. Like
gamer! I thought you meant like fucking Fortnite.
Hooper, yeah. No,
that would be Ben Simmons or DeAndre Ayton, obviously.
Yeah, whichever NBA player is squatting up with Kyler Murray right now. In the thing. So it's, just not that many. There were a couple of things that caught my eye. One was which first-year head coach has had the most positive impact on his team. And Joe Mazzulla beat out Jacques Vaughn here by 14 points.
When were these votes finished is my question.
Yeah.
Because there were some things on here that I'm like, really?
I like Joe Mazzulla. I think he's a good coach. I think he gets too much shit because I think that, he
doesn't call timeouts.
Yeah, he doesn't call timeouts. I still think that's funny, and I'm okay with kind of treating the regular season with contempt when you're good enough to get a high seed. I think is always good because it is silly, it's stupid. But I will say he has had almost zero impact on the team, and like that's the point. Like that's why it's good because the team is just the same team. Jacques Vaughn like literally turned their season around single-handedly. Like, what does that man have to do to win that award?
He should win Coach of the Year. No, hands down.
Yeah,
not even a question. It's like him or Mike Brown, maybe, but probably him.
Yeah. So that was I thought that one was pretty interesting. It's also very funny that Ty Lue still got the head coach that makes the best in-game adjustments when we've been talking about how Clippers fans are kind of like fed up with him.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, so that
I feel like game-to-game adjustments he makes better, like in the playoffs. Like in-game, not as much. but I would probably give that to Spoelstra.
Steph Curry getting 97% of the vote for who's the best shooter in the league was also very funny because it just
who's the 3% that voted for Klay Thompson?
Yeah, I want to know who voted for Klay Thompson. It needs to be like, because Gary, by the way, it was probably Gary Washburn because Gary is famously known for the one who fucked up the unanimous MVP by voting for Carmelo Anthony that one year. Do you remember that?
I didn't know that.
That was Gary. He was the one who voted for Carmelo Anthony. In the MVP voting, so he's never been afraid to fucking be that guy.
Put that on Melo's Hall of Fame resume.
He should be.
Fucked up Steph Curry's unanimous MVP. Got one vote.
This must have been earlier because there's another crazy part where, like, the best small forward in the league, and obviously only Tatum and Durant got votes. But Tatum beat out Durant by like a full 34 points, which should not happen. Like, I would think Durant should be like a little bit ahead, honestly, if I were.
This definitely was a long time ago because Jonathan said it's pretty cool that Poole is their 6th man of the year despite starting more games than he's come off the bench. But this had to be around the time of the Steph injury, right?
It has to be, yeah.
It had to be because he can't win now because he started too many games. And that's always the issue with that award for me. The funniest one to me personally was there were a lot of ones that I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like, like Andrew Nembhard being the biggest steal. Sure, he's been good for a second round pick, whatever. Although I was surprised that there were certain people that were left off there that I thought should have been. But like it had Brooklyn's bounce back in here as the most surprising storyline of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had Luka with his 60-point triple-double and Donovan Mitchell with his 71-point performance, which happened like a week ago. So like, did people just not change their mind on these things? Like they were like, like it's the same thing why like, actually the reason why I thought of the Milwaukee thing was because Milwaukee was getting so much love as one of the best teams in the NBA. Like they were second in the tiered voting.
It's also crazy to me that the Clippers are still leading the West coming out of the West.
That was insane. That was the most insane part of all of it.
Because I said that I wasn't like writing them off, but they would not be a favorite even for me, who kind of believes in them a little bit as a playoff team. Like, so that's weird to have them against like ahead of like Denver and like Golden State, like.
But the weird part about it was that everyone had the Clippers coming out of the West as like their top pick.
Yeah.
But then if you looked at the tiered voting where they had to vote for the 4 best or the 5 best teams in the league, they didn't get a single vote at the top. It was like the Sixers got 7 4th place votes. And they were in 8th and the Clippers were in 9th with no votes.
Yeah, and they had 3 other West teams ahead of them in Denver, Memphis, and New Orleans. Bizarre, really weird.
Extremely weird.
I was gonna say I would love to know the timing on like all this voting. It's very very weird.
Also, I'm sure Sixers fans will want to hear this part. I'm sure this is the part they got mad at. Who is the best center in the NBA this season? Nikola Jokic with 86% of the vote. Joel Embiid with 14%. And I tried to tell you, like, I, by the way, I do think Jokic is having a better season than Embiid. I think that I actually think it's closer just because I think Embiid's defense has been way better this season than it has been in the past few years when he's kind of had to carry the entire offense. I mean, their defensive rating when Embiid's on the court is like extremely good, and it's pretty bad when he sits. But Jokic over Embiid, I understand because I think Jokic is probably having a better season, but this goes to my point that like the media does hate Joel Embiid now. Like they just do because of what he said last year in
the cardinal sin.
Yeah. He insulted the media by saying that he feels like the media hates him and that's it. He's done forever now. They think that their job is more important than doctors. So think about this. Okay. You're an NBA MVP voter, okay? You've been working in the content mines. You have the black lung. You come home to your 17 children that you have that you're barely trying to support on your writer's day. People might think that NBA media people, they make 6 figures. They live in fancy houses. No,
No, you're not allowed to with an MVP vote because it's a conflict of interest. Bill Simmons, people don't know this. He lives in a box in a subway. Like that is where he lives right now.
That's where he podcasts from.
That's where he podcasts from. You know why he does 4 minutes of plugs right at the top? Because that's how long it takes to get from one station to the next in the famous LA subway system, which a lot of you don't know about. You think they drive, but no, the LA subway system that Bill lives in. So anyway, you're working hard, and then you see the audacity of this multi-millionaire to personally attack you and incite violence. We're kind of lucky that we haven't had a January 6th, but for NBA journalists at this point. That's the kind of game that Joel Embiid is playing right now. He's
dangerous.
Taking NBA journalists' lives into his hands. Because the worst thing in the world for someone who writes about sports is getting to decide history. I can see why they'd be annoyed
pressure.
About that. Yeah. Getting to as someone who has no bearing on the sport, you grow up loving the sport. You get to be part of it by being an arbiter of what is good or not. Yeah, there's no one in the country that would want to do that. It's definitely something you want to complain about for sure.
Yeah, always. Yeah. You worked your whole life to get an MVP vote just so you could bitch about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, and we all recognize as people outside of the MVP votes, we're like, damn, really not jealous of them. That's a lot of responsibility.
I would hate to have that job.
I would hate to have that job where I get to pick and defend my MVP vote. I would definitely complain about it all the time on podcasts. If it were me.
It's just a really, really tough light. So
it sucks. It sucks so bad.
Thoughts and prayers to those who vote for MVP. I know it's going to be tough once again this year. Maybe tougher than ever.
We're going to get
this year.
We're going to get the Arms of the Angel thing where it's just like sad pans over to like Russillo, like looking like a sad pit bull.
He's gonna try to vote. He's gonna try to vote for Cade for MVP, like he did last year for Rookie of the Year.
Cade is Rookie of the Year again. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, because he's still technically only played one season. That's a rookie. So
yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is a good place to end it. I know it's a shorter episode this week, but I will be back home soon, and we'll be able to do
The Hogs are rebelling because we gave them a podcast that's 20 minutes longer than every other podcast.
What? They're like, how dare you not give us 2 hours of content?
Your guys
I promise you the one later this week will be 2 hours, and you'll have to subscribe to the Patreon to get that. But, Sam, thanks as always. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just want to say, congrats to Steph Curry. He's back tonight.
Oh, he is? Yeah.
Yep. I just, I'm glad to see he's back. Everyone just remember, investing advice. There is still cryptocurrency out there. So just, be careful now that Steph Curry is back. He will have a platform again. We've learned our lesson about FTX, but there are other crypto exchanges. There's Luna. There's other ones that have a Tether, other ones that haven't gone under. I'm just saying, it's great to watch Steph Curry, shoot the ball, but just, let's maybe sit out Bitcoin, as cryptocurrency for a little bit longer. Okay?
A little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just keep an eye on that in the post game today. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Peace.
Peace.